Hi everyone, I'm Martin Bamford and I'm a chartered financial planner who over the past 20 years has had quite privileged access and insight into the habits of some of the wealthiest people in the UK. Today in this video, I'm going to share 10 surprising facts about my richest clients that will blow you away. These are people just like you who have the same dreams and goals as anyone else, but they've made some life-changing decisions which have helped them achieve extraordinary levels of wealth. I've always found it fascinating that my wealthiest clients do things very differently to the typical perception of millionaire behaviour. I want to dive straight into these 10 surprising facts about my richest clients, starting with this one. They are frugal. Not cheap, as I'll explain in the second surprising fact, but frugal. One example is the type of cars they drive. We think about rich people, about millionaires, and we probably revert to thinking about supercars, Lambos, Ferraris, etc. But the majority of wealthy clients I've worked with drive reasonably modest cars, almost always purchased second-hand. A few drive what you might describe as beaters. I've had one client who, despite having several £1 million in the bank and investments, drove a 17-year-old people carrier with a broken back window covered with a sheet of plastic. You would never have guessed his bank balance by looking at what he drove. Flashy cars don't motivate most wealthy people. Sure, if cars are your passion and you can afford them, there's nothing wrong with having a stable of supercars. Some wealthy individuals even buy supercars as an investment, rarely driving them, but instead allowing rare models to accumulate more value. This frugality when it comes to cars is something that's been observed among the world's richest CEOs as well. Amazon boss Jeff Bezos, who's either the first or second richest man in the world, depending on the value of the stock market that day. He drives a 1997 Honda Accord. Before that, he drove a 1987 Chevrolet Blazer. Legendary investor Warren Buffett drives a 2014 Cadillac XTS. It's a nice car, but it's certainly not a supercar. And Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg drives a Honda Jazz and also owns an Acura TSX and a VW Golf. Nice cars are nice to drive and they're nice to own, but they are status symbols and a very expensive way to demonstrate status. The depreciation of a brand new car is steep, varying between brands, but on average it loses 15 to 35% of its value in the first year and then 80% of its value over 5 years. And by the way, watch those depreciation rates shoot up as we get closer to 2030 and the ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel engine cars. Surprising fact number 2 is just how generous my richest clients are. They don't just give money away willy-nilly, but they do support charities and those in need. As a proportion of their wealth, you can argue that rich people give away less than those with more modest assets, but they are far more generous in absolute terms. Among the richest people I've worked with over the past 20 years, all have specific charitable interests, often one local and one international, and in most cases they're supporting at least one family or individual who has fallen on hard times. These clients are reasonably cautious about their charitable and philanthropic giving, and they treat it strategically, carefully planning the amount that they'll give away each year, but they are all generous to a fault. Surprising fact number 3 is just how private these people are. As their financial planner, I get a very privileged insight into their wealth, family relationships, goals, habits and challenges, but outside of their inner circle of close family and trusted advisors, they keep themselves to themselves. Those that appear in the press or on social media are the exception, not the rule. My richest clients avoid public interest and attention, not because they've got anything to hide, but because they don't feel the need to brag about their success or to make themselves the target of jealous people or begging letters. Number 4 is a focus on property wealth. Most of the wealthiest people I've worked with have boosted their wealth by investing in residential or commercial property. While their main residences are usually relatively modest, nice, but certainly not as palatial as they could realistically afford with their wealth, they've used the wealth that they've built elsewhere to invest in property to further grow their income and net worth. This is actually a very important point. None of the richest clients that I've advised became wealthy solely because of property investing, but where they generated wealth elsewhere, which I'll come on to in my next point, they took that spare money and they bought property or land which over very long periods of time grew in value and helped to multiply their wealth. Surprising fact number 5 is that all of my richest clients generated their wealth as business owners or senior executives in businesses. You don't need to start a business to become rich, but it helps to share in the success of a profitable or a growing business, especially when that business is sold or goes public. And then you've got a stake which rewards you handsomely. I've had rich clients who built their wealth by starting a business and subsequently selling it, it. Some became millionaires by eventually taking a backseat in their successful business and enjoying the ongoing dividend payments while the business continues to grow and run by a trusted management team. Others are senior executives in large companies, rewarded not only with a salary and bonus, but also with an equity stake in that company. I've sat in the living room of one client when the cash proceeds of his tech startup business sale came through into his bank account during our meeting, and the look of jubilation on his face when that happened. I've advised clients who became millionaires through the IPO of their employer, and that's because they held shares in that business. And I've worked with multiple rich clients who built successful businesses that are now run on their behalf, allowing them to spend their time as they wish without day-to-day involvement in running the business itself. You don't need to start and run a business to become wealthy, but that, or becoming an equity shareholder, is a common factor in every rich client I've worked with in the past 20 years. What I've never seen is someone getting rich trading shares or cryptocurrency. I'm sure it happens occasionally, and these people are out there, but again, it's the exception, not the rule. Surprising fact number 6 is how simple they keep their affairs. While rich people typically have more than one source of income, whether that's multiple businesses or rental income from properties, they don't overcomplicate their lives with ridiculously complex affairs. In fact, I've had several clients come to me because their financial lives were becoming too complicated, and they had buyer's remorse after getting wrapped up in complex trust or legal schemes, and they wanted to simplify what was going on. Wealth building does not need to be complex. As soon as you start getting involved in investment or wealth building schemes that are difficult to understand, or you take yourself off the beaten path, that's a sure sign that you've gone wrong somewhere. Scams tend to use complexity to hide their true intentions. Complex investments tend to be the riskiest, the ones that come with the risk of complete loss of capital, so steer away from complexity. Number 7 is that these rich clients surround themselves with great advisors. I would say that, wouldn't I? But seriously, they recognize the value and importance of professional advice. While they could save a few pounds by doing stuff themselves, that's never a good use of their time, and it will often prove to be a false economy, ultimately costing them a lot more than they saved. But going back to my earlier point about privacy, it takes a lot for these rich individuals to trust an advisor, or their advice in fact. They work off personal recommendations and they test the veracity of the advice they're given very, very thoroughly before taking a particular course of action. In most cases, the richest clients I've worked with have a financial planner, an accountant, and a solicitor or a firm of solicitors. That covers off money, tax, and legal affairs. They may also bring in other specialists as and when they're needed, for example, planning consultants when they're making changes to properties, but these advisors always work in a tight inner circle and they tend to speak to each other too, so any advice they give is well coordinated. Number 8 is a focus on family. Without exception, every rich client I've worked with places family at the heart of their decision making and has strong family values. They make money and they build wealth for a bigger purpose than just themselves. If you're on a wealth building mission, pause to reflect on this one. What's your why? Why are you chasing wealth? You need a bigger purpose than the money itself. Surprising fact number 9 is that rich people have problems too. Money doesn't necessarily solve all of your problems, and in some cases it can create a whole new set of problems. I've seen numerous examples of greedy relatives behaving in an absolutely shocking way because large sums of money are involved. In one case, I watched a son and daughter attempt to bleed their elderly mother dry. She had millions in cash and investments, but she lived in a property that hadn't been updated or decorated for about 30 years. A relatively small amount of her money spent upgrading her home would have resulted in a much happier life, much happier existence. But the adult kids, who were absolutely disgraceful in my opinion, they were wholly motivated by preserving the size of their inheritance. They didn't like me very much, by the way, because when her brother worked out what was going on with his sister's living conditions and money, he introduced me, brought me onto the scene to help her sort things out, and I fell out with the kids pretty quickly. You might be pulling out the world's tiniest violin right now to play a tune in sympathy for rich people who have rich people's problems. But this one is really a heads up, and it's a reminder that the grass is not always greener on the other side. Yes, money can and does solve a great many problems in life. For example, if you experience poor health, that ability to pay for private medical treatment is so incredibly valuable. But with wealth comes more choices, often more difficult choices, and also the potential for conflict about money. It's something to be aware of if you're pursuing wealth. And then surprising fact number 10, without without exception, my richest clients got rich slowly. There were no shortcuts to wealth building. You can measure the progress in decades. In some cases, their net wealth shot up overnight, but only ever as a result of the incredibly hard work they consistently put in over very long periods of time. My richest clients were always incredibly patient. They were in no hurry to get rich, but they knew that wealth was inevitable because they were following the right strategies consistently over time. It's this surprising fact that makes me chuckle when I see attempts by people to get rich quickly. You might win the lottery, either literally or metaphorically, but the odds are always stacked against that happening. Where you can tip the scales in your favour is to build wealth gradually over the course of decades by doing the right things each and every day. 10 surprising facts there about my richest clients. A lot of these reflect habits that any of us can follow, and I hope serve as a bit of a wake-up call to those who believe there is a faster, easier path to wealth. Teddy Roosevelt once said, "Nothing worth having comes easy." He also said, "Far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing." Which of the 10 facts about my richest clients in this video surprised you the most? Leave me a comment below. Thank you for watching this video. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford, and remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.